say, despite what I expected, I love this phone a lot more than I thought I would. Let's talk about it. What's up everyone, my name is Michael, I'm with TECHMB. Today, we're trying some new stuff. I've got a dress shirt on, I've got a jacket. That's interesting, that's exciting. And speaking of interesting and exciting, I have a story for you all. It's not that interesting, but it's interesting to me. Anyway, back in October of 2021, my mom needed a new phone and she wanted to stay with an iPhone. So I gave her my iPhone XR. I needed a new phone. And around then, the Pixel 6 had just come out, and I consciously avoided getting a Pixel 6, and instead I got a Pixel 5. First, the Pixel 5 would be more durable, with the plastic back over an aluminum frame. Second, it was much smaller than the Pixel 6, with a 6-inch display on the 5, compared to the 6.4-inch display on the 6. And I used the 5, and I've been loving it ever since. But recently, the Pixel 6 has just been kind of calling to me. So I picked one up with the idea that I wasn't going to like it and I would be returning it after I made some videos with it. But instead I've decided to keep it. I have a few categories when it comes to my smartphone purchases. At the top of my ranking is performance and software. That is my most important feature to me when I'm going out to buy a phone. The next, in-hand design and usability. One-hand usability is pretty important to me. Third is battery life. I want good battery, but I can deal with a phone that I have to charge more often as long as I at least enjoy using it while a battery lasts. And lastly is camera. Don't get me wrong, I want a good camera, but it's not my main thing that I'm looking for in a smartphone. It's not that important to me. The Pixel 6 scores very well on software and performance, but it doesn't score high on design and in-hand usability like the Pixel 5 does. And yet, I love the Pixel 6 so much. Starting off with the design, I actually really like the look of this. It seems like Google just mashed up nearly all of the major Pixel designs and called it a day. The pronounced camera from the Pixel 1, the dual tone from the Pixel 2, the all glass design from the 3, the matte black aluminum edges from the 4 and the 5, all to create this Frankenstein of a phone. The back glass is incredibly glossy, and it slides on any angle surface you put it on, while also collecting more fingerprints and dust than an investigator on a crime drama. The metal sides do provide an interesting texture, with buttons that, while clicky, are just slightly too high. The back camera bar does prevent the phone from rocking on a table, but I'm so terrified of accidentally scratching that camera bar. That fear has caused me to put a case on this phone, transforming it from large to, well, even larger. The 6 does feel lighter than the 207 gram weight would suggest, and the boxy sides do let it kind of slip into your hand more than the very rounded sides of the Pixel 5 do. Typing one-handed on this phone is only possible if you really like punishing yourself. I've used the one-handed keyboard option in Gboard, but it gets annoying to have to reposition it whenever I switch hands. Interestingly, I found that my typing on the 6, even with two hands, was worse compared to the 5. I don't know if I haven't gotten used to the size of the 6 or what. One other little quirk, the charging port and speakers down at the bottom aren't centered. Not a huge deal, but people gave the iPhone XR and the Galaxy S6 a lot of flack over this, and yet no one's talked about it here on the Pixel 6. I like holding the Pixel 6. After a few weeks of usage, it feels less like a surfboard and more of, I don't know, just like a canoe in the hand. But it does slip into your hands, and the very boxy feel of this device does make it more holdable compared to the just pebble-like feel of the Pixel 5, which I have found to be kind of slick feeling in the hand. Now, of course, you don't want to crack this phone, you don't want to crack the back, and you really don't want to crack the screen. But how does that screen look? In a word, it looks gorgeous. Blacks are inky deep, colors pop, text is crisp at 411 ppi, which for a 6.4-inch display is more than enough. Looking at this display is quite enjoyable, but using it is even better. The 90Hz screen refresh rate makes motion look like butter. The glass itself, while attracting a lot of dust and oil, feels incredibly smooth, making your finger just glide along it. I appreciate that the panel is flat, which makes accidental presses a non-issue, and the option to increase sensitivity is very useful for these cold times. Interestingly enough, white balance does hew a little more to the cooler side, which I'm fine with because I prefer cooler displays, but my main complaint is off-axis viewing angles, which get really blotchy. The phone will just kind of blotch these pink and blue areas when you turn it off-axis, which I initially thought was a problem with the display until I just realized that's how it looks off-axis. Not a huge deal, but if you notice that, you're going to be bothered by it. The bezels on this phone are slim, if not symmetrical like they were on the 5, and up top the hole punch for the camera is quite small, but it looks to be almost uncentered in the cutout when viewed straight on. In an interesting move, the corners of the screen aren't as round as they are on the 5, they're more boxy, kind of like they were on the Pixel 3, which also leads app animations to be more boxy feeling, and when you swipe up for multitasking, the card corners don't match the corners of the display. But speaking of things that are on the display, or really under it, the fingerprint reader. Here's my view. It's not the best, it's not the fastest, and I don't disagree. It's not bad. I don't really have any issues with it not being able to read my print. It reads my right thumb versus my left thumb. I like that it's on the front so I can use it when it's on a desk. It's just my big issue is I don't like how the scanner will light up the whole display when I'm going to use it. In a dark room, that gets really annoying. It makes your finger look like it's a flashlight. I don't like it. I do miss though the ability to use the scanner as a trackpad for gestures, like on every other Android device with a fingerprint reader. Plus, there's no face unlock, not even a rudimentary one with the camera. And speaking of the camera, we might as well talk about it. As always, pictures look out of this world good. Video is much improved using new algorithms to run the features in the viewfinder, as well as on video output. To me, the most improved thing about the Pixel camera is the detail when zooming in. The output I got from the Pixel 5 was outstanding, until you went to zoom into it. Then detail got blurry while also looking over sharpened at the same time. Here, however, with that massive 50 megapixel camera that's been combined down into 12 megapixels, zooming in on photos is not an issue. Fine detail in rocks, trees, and asphalt all come out perfectly rendered. Colors are bright, and highlights and shadows aren't over or underexposed, and low light performance lends a very pleasing look to images. Some of the features that the Pixel 6 brings, like long exposure mode and action pan, I haven't really gotten a chance to try out, but the one thing that I have used is Magic Eraser. In essence, what it allows you to do is remove parts of images using artificial intelligence and machine learning to kind of fill in what should be there. And for the fact that it's being run on your device, and to me as an average Joe, it is scarily good. In fact, one of the pictures in this montage I used Magic Eraser on, and I didn't tell you. Go ahead right now, pause this video, go back through that montage, and see if you can figure out which picture it is that I used Eraser on. The camera features on here are very good. I will say the wide angle lens isn't quite as wide as I would like it to be, but it's better than nothing. I also don't really talk about the front cameras in my reviews because I don't bother with selfies, but it looks fine, I guess. Video stabilization is excellent, but the app isn't. I figured that the app stuttered on the Pixel 5 and the 4a due to a lack of processing power, but it stutters just as much on the 6 as it did on the 5, so I'm guessing it's just an app that has been poorly written by Google. Switching modes is just a lag fest, and it just doesn't. It's the one area I get the phone to slow down. Other reviews have also talked about the overheating during extended 4K video recording. I personally haven't recorded video in 4K long enough to notice. Overall, I mean, I would be fine using Pixel 6 to record some of my videos. And I'm using a Lumix G85 right now to record, and I'm very happy with that, which I think is a testament to the quality of the Pixel 6's camera. Battery life on here has been decent. I can get about 5 hours of screen on time with medium brightness, connected to Wi-Fi most of the time, and streaming music to my AirPods. I don't bother with 5G, but I sure do wish the battery statistics were more useful. The Pixel 6 does support wireless charging as well as reverse wireless charging, which are two features that I don't care about, but I do care about the adaptive battery, which works to slow down charging overnight and then speed it up towards when you normally get up or a certain time that you've set, so that you'll always have a full charge, but it helps preserve your battery life. Overall, the Pixel 6 is not the battery champ that the Pixel 5 was. This thing could just go and go and go, but I can easily get through a full day of usage, full throttle with the Pixel 6. It's not a 2-day phone, but it is a powerful all-day phone. And speaking of power, let's talk about the thing that now makes a Pixel a Pixel. The Google Tensor processor. This is a custom designed chip. There's a bunch of evidence to show that it's really just a recent Samsung Exynos processor with a few modifications made by Google too, but I don't really care, because this phone is fast. I came from a Pixel 5, which, up until now, I thought was a very fast and very fluid experience. And the Pixel 6 just beats it. It just feels faster overall. General UI navigation is a breeze. Loading apps, processing photos, all of it just feels great. I thought the Pixel 5 felt fast, but this brings it up to a whole new level. While there are a few places I can get it to stutter, mainly the fingerprint animation and the camera app, this phone is truly a joy to use. Honestly, I think it feels faster and more fluid than the iPhone, which I know is kind of blasphemy at this point. I think a lot of this comes down to Android 12. I initially was really excited for Android 12, and then I got bummed out using it on the 4A and the 5, but now I love it here on the Pixel 6. Disclosure, I use Repainter to give me more vivid themes, but this version of Android is such a joy to use. I finally get what Google was going for here with Android 12. I do have a whole video coming out soon about Android 12, but so many of the features like the system-wide search in the app drawer, call screening and all of the notification control, the tie-in of Google services, the blazing fast voice assistant, voice dictation, which is so fast and mostly very accurate. It's not quite perfect as punctuation detection is pretty hit or miss, but for what's mostly a take one, it's so useful for recording notes in class. I do wish Google would improve the transcription part of the app, as you currently have to scrub through everything to find text, you can't just scroll through. And just in general, Android is so fast and efficient that it makes me happy to use it. Now, of course, as much as I love Android, it does have some issues. Like, for one, I don't understand why the keyboard pop-ups are so big. Second, I really wish that Google would stop asking me to rate their apps. Borrow from Samsung their displays and their processor, not the ads throughout the OS. Third, sometimes I'll tap an app from the lock screen and sign in with the scanner, and it just doesn't take me to that notification. Sometimes when changing into low power mode, the home screen goes blank and requires a turn off. This phone also runs a little warmer than I was expecting. It doesn't get hot, it just lets you know that it's working. I've been lucky and I've avoided basically all of the major Pixel 6 bugs that people have experienced. I haven't had an issue with cellular connectivity or not being able to dial 911, though I haven't tried that recently and I hope I don't have to. And Google does need to work on their quality control. It's insane that a new device came with as many bugs as it did, and I have found that it's gotten buggier over the past few weeks of usage. But overall, I've enjoyed the software experience on here, and I think it offers so much for consumers that it is worth using despite those bugs, especially as a lot of them have gotten fixed recently. Using this phone reminds me of the Nexus lines, where people would have issues with the battery or the camera, but they still loved using it because of the software experience. This is a Google phone, more so than any other Google phone in the past, because it combines a smart digital experience with a fun use case for it. That is why I love the Pixel 6 so much more than I ever expected to like it. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, if you have any questions about the Pixel 6, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Otherwise, I'm Michael with TECHMB. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya. So you're the good viewer that stayed all the way through the very end of the video. Congratulations. You do get to know which picture I used with Magic Eraser. It was this one. Thank you for watching. See ya.